This movie takes codependency to an entirely new level. I recently got to check out Together, starring Dave Franco and Alison Brie, who are a real-life couple portraying a couple in this movie. Directed by Michael Shanks, this was advertised as a body horror relationship movie. It tells the story of a couple who's going through a lot of change in their life, including a change of scenery that causes a strain in their relationship. But once something happens, their relationship is tested more than ever before. First and foremost, I think it's a great thing to see body horror coming back into the mix as something that is accepted by popular culture. We're actually starting to get more of these movies into the mainstream, and not only are they appreciated, they're celebrated. I mean, think of the success that The Substance had last year. Realism goes a long way, but when you can find a way to be surreal and visceral and manage to tell a compelling story through the lens of something visually nightmarish, there's a quality about that that's unmatched. I was excited for this movie alone just because of Alison Brie and Dave Franco being attached.
What did he say?
I think they have great chemistry, obviously, in real life as a married couple, but I was curious to see how that would translate to the screen. You'd expect it to go well. Also, hearing that some of the inspiration for this movie was The Thing and David Cronenberg movies like The Fly. And after going into this movie completely blind, what a trip, man. This is one of the coolest movies, probably one of my favorites of the entire year. Let's talk about their relationship first, because if that chemistry does not work, then the rest of the movie just falls apart. And while we know that they are a happy and healthy couple from the looks of it in real life, how is that going to translate? And surprisingly enough, they're playing a couple in this movie that is at odds with each other. There's a tension there. They're going through a lot of changes in their life as a couple, but also in their individual careers. Beyond the body horror, which is a great added element, what makes this movie work the most is that it's an intimate look at codependency in relationships. Often when you're with somebody for a long extended period of time, there comes a moment to where everything feels complacent. This isn't the case for everybody, but this is definitely something that can occur. And at times it feels like you've sort of lost your identity or your purpose beyond being a partner. They explore that very well here, as Dave Franco's character specifically is lacking the motivation, lacking the purpose, lacking the drive to see what next steps he needs to take. He doesn't really know a life outside of his partner. In fact, at times he feels trapped. But at the same time, instead of doing something with that feeling, he continues to remain complacent while his girlfriend is actually trying to pursue a career and move forward. There's a constant back and forth, a constant tension, a constant questioning of if this relationship at this stage is something that they should continue to pursue. And for a real life couple that seems to have a very strong relationship, it seems like that would be sort of a challenge for them to play a version of themselves that isn't too happy with the other, but they do it incredibly well. You buy the chemistry, you buy the tension, and this is really a movie that takes place entirely just between these two characters. There isn't a lot of outside noise. Aside from Damon Harriman, who plays a neighbor and a colleague of Alison Brie's character, notorious for playing really evil guys, including he's played Charles Manson a handful of times. And in this movie, he's got much more of a subdued role, but at the same time, there are these underlying tones that make his character seem sort of untrustworthy, but there's no inherent reasons that should make you feel that he's that type of person. He just brings that sort of presence, and that adds for an interesting dynamic when they have a few encounters with him throughout this movie. But obviously, the people are going to be coming to this movie for the body horror, and there is plenty to love here. Not only is the lore surrounding the reasons that these things are happening to these characters very interesting and compelling, and I feel like for the most part very well fleshed out, but it's also just a showcase of great practical effects, as well as very well executed and unique displays of horror. This isn't a movie that's in your face. It's not trying to smother you with those horror elements. It's not looking for every opportunity to pick the lowest hanging fruit to give you something that you could have seen coming a mile away. It's actually very smart and clever with its approach, and a lot of the turns are very unexpected, and it leads to some visual sequences that are very tasteful, which feels like a weird word to use to describe a body horror movie where two characters are literally merging as one. But it really feels like they put a lot of care and craft into not only making this disturbing, but also visually appealing. And on top of these characters already having great chemistry, but the way that the film explores their relationship as it progresses, these characters continue to slowly spiral out of control. Dave Franco especially, he's losing his mind fairly early on in this movie, and it just gets worse and worse, and it seems like his character cannot catch a break. Now, if you think it's going to be body horror and carnage at every turn, you might be a little bit disappointed because they space out the placement of these moments, at least for the first 2/3 of the movie. But again, it's done effectively, it's done tastefully. It's a slow, gradual build-up to the madness rather than something in your face for the entire runtime. But when that third act hits, everything hits the fan, and that's the stuff that body horror gore fans dream of. Not only that, Franco and Brie being fairly known for their comedic backgrounds, they execute bringing in some little comedic undertones here and there into this movie that add for a refreshing break from the madness.
Whiskey for the pain.
And again, it's very tasteful. They don't give you more than needed here. They give the right amount to feed the specific moment. Everything that happens here is in benefit of the overall story. It doesn't feel like it's taking away anything. And that's something I look for in movies like this, that often I'm left feeling disappointed. And the ending is one of those that will leave your jaw on the floor. In fact, I'm still not sure exactly how I feel about it. There are certain decisions made within the story that kind of, they go for it. They go for it, man. I had people in my audience screaming. There were other people who were laughing by the end of it. This is going to be completely down to your interpretation, what your preferences are. I feel like they kind of underserved the characters by the decisions that they made towards the end, but at the same time, I don't know if the story would have felt any more satisfying if they gave me the ending I thought was needed. It's something else, man. It's just one of those movies that you have to go into and experience for what it is, and either you love it or you hate it. But either way, they did their best here, and they provided exactly what they set out to do. I do want to address the baby elephant in the room and say that there was some controversy surrounding this movie, as writer and director Michael Shanks was accused of possibly plagiarizing the script for this movie from another writer who had shopped his movie around to different studios, to different writers, trying to figure out a place for his story, and then suddenly Together came along. And while since then it seems like things have been settled, that being said, if it does come out that it was plagiarized, then that's gonna really sour the movie for me. But until then, I just sort of wanted to set that aside and enjoy the movie for what it is. And if there's no controversy, then great, because I had a good time with this movie. So if you're into this type of thing and you think you can handle the gore, I would suggest going out and seeing it. I think you might have a good time. Just maybe don't bring your significant other. But guys, make sure to comment down below if you've seen this movie and let me know what your thoughts were on it. As always, I really appreciate you guys' support on these videos, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time, I'll see y'all later. Peace out.